snow was falling thick and heavy all around me. I could barely see my own hand in front of me, much less the path ahead. Any footprints left behind by travelers before me had been covered long ago. I had tried not to deviate from my path, but the wind was so strong that I may have been pushed off course without even realizing. Beyond the occasional gust of wind in my ears, the storm was virtually silent. I knew that beyond my limited field of vision, there was nothing but a massive, empty snowfield. The thought of so much nothingness was disconcerting. No longer sure of my own safety, I called upon the one tool that had a chance of helping me. I rifled through my pack until my gloved hand struck metal and pulled out an object that looked like some sort of compact telescope. I easily clipped the cylinder to my leather and metal helmet, covering my left eye. I flicked the power switch, and the blinding white snowstorm turned a vibrant blue in my left eye's vision. This thermal vision scope was probably the only thing that had kept me alive so long on these unforgiving mountains. With frequent and random storms raging across the land, paths and footprints could be obscured in an instant, and even the flagpole markers that ran along the path every so often could become invisible in the dense snowfall. I relied on my scope because anything alive stood out as a speck of bright orange against the blue of the cold. If I was anywhere near another person, I would know it. I was relieved to see a glowing orange spot, barely perceptible, dead ahead. I rushed toward it as fast as my boots would let me in the deep snow. The spot gradually got larger in my vision until I was able to switch off the device and call out a greeting to whoever lay nearby. Through the snow, I saw a man turn at my call. He was wrapped in thick fur clothing just like myself, and sported a large gray beard, which was pockmarked with snowflakes. "Hello, fellow traveler," the man said in a friendly tone. "Are you also traveling to Wolfridge on this day?" "Indeed I am," I replied. "I hope you know where you're going. I'm not so sure I'm still on the right path." The man smiled, an odd expression for him to decide to make given our situation. "I fear I do not. However, I trust that this is the correct way. If you feel inclined to trust my judgment, I would be happy to have you join me, friend." Since he was traveling in relatively the same direction I had been, I accepted the overly friendly man's offer, and we continued on trudging through the snow. I had nothing to talk about, and thankfully it seemed he did not either. I had no desire to be friendly today. I just wanted to get to Wolfridge, see what I needed to see, and go back home. The two of us traveled in silence for some time until a marker came into view. The old red flag fluttered violently in the wind ahead of us, and I knew that the town could not be far. At the very least, we had found the path. The storm seemed to be calming, at least temporarily. Soon the low stone walls of Wolfridge stood before us, appearing through the lazily drifting snowflakes as a gray smudge. Several inches of snow were accumulated atop the wall's granulations, and indeed the snow had lodged itself anywhere it could find a ledge, no matter how small. The gates were open, as was the custom in the mountain towns. If a dangerous force can make it through the snow without anyone noticing, without losing most of their men, then a closed gate would be an easy obstacle to overcome. I had not slowed down much for the old man, yet he had kept up with me effortlessly. I knew he must be a native to these mountains, although I had never seen it before. Then again, there were many living on the mountains, more than I could have recalled seeing, even if I had met each and every one. But of course I had not met each and every one of them. I had no desire to. On these snowy ridges, acquaintances turned to friends, and friends turned to partners. I did not need a partner or a team to survive in the mountains. I work best alone, and working alone means I am not obligated to save anyone's life when they inevitably fall down a crevasse or succumb to frostbite. The town of Wolfridge was small, near the fringes of inhabited territory. There was nothing special about it, really. Dozens of small towns like this dotted the mountainsides, all equally full of miners, hunters, artisans, and drunks. Just as the thought of drunks crossed my mind, I found myself outside the town's tavern. A path up to the door was already worn into the snow by the boots of men eager to warm their bodies with drink. The old man was still beside me, and I decided to bid him farewell. "My business takes me to this tavern for a meeting. Thank you for allowing me to travel with you. "Oh, our companionship has not ended yet," the old man said, "for this is my destination as well. Come, let us drink together while we wait for our respective friends." I could have turned the man down, saying that the man I was meeting, who most certainly was not my friend, was likely already in the tavern awaiting my arrival. But seeing as I did not in fact know who my contact was, I decided a quick drink with my fellow traveler could not hurt. Much. My social skills reeled at the thought of further conversation. I opened the wooden door for the old man, and a wave of hot air blasted me in the face. Several fireplaces roared away inside, and as I followed my companion indoors, I began stripping off layers of furs, already beginning to sweat. The tavern was the usual scene. Grizzled men with skulls as thick as their barrel chests guffawed at each other's raunchy stories, dribbling ale from their cold, cracked lips. The fires were the only source of light as well as heat, and I could feel my eyes straining to adjust from the brightness of the snow. The aura of smoke in the air didn't help the pain. Alone in a corner by himself was a man with a long beard drinking spirits. I suppose I should elaborate on my use of the term spirits. In other lands, the word is used to refer to certain distilled drinks, having the same effects as the ale most of these tavern-goers were drinking. The spirits that this man was drinking were in fact the magically distilled souls of the deceased. Again, I have overextended my explanations and must start at something simpler. He was drinking spirits because he had drained his own. We all drain our own spirits, or souls as we often call them, to use the technology that gets us by day to day. Several centuries ago, an ingenious inventor and scholar discovered a magical incantation that could extract one's non-physical life energy from their soul, and invented a type of container that could hold the now material manifestation of our being. In his flurry of progress, he created all kinds of mechanical devices that could operate without the physical effort of man or animals, and instead used these batteries containing a bit of one's soul. The source of power was impressively long-lasting, but there was a problem. One only had a limited amount of soul that they could extract before they had none left. It did not take our innovative scholar long to learn that the soul is what keeps one alive and healthy. He began aging rapidly and finding it harder to fight off sickness because he had used up so much of his own life energy powering his machines. An equally intelligent apprentice of his set about finding a way to replenish one's soul, and after numerous failed hypotheses, composed an incantation that could extract the souls of the recently deceased and distill them into something that could be directly consumed. The resulting beverage was rather expensive, but vital for anyone who used personal technology. The thermal scope I had used in the snow before was powered by a battery filled with my own soul. It was an insignificant amount, and the battery was old. My spirit had long since been replenished. My scope was one of the many items I often traveled with that required a power source, and most everyone on the mountains carried around some combination of devices to get them by. The old man and I asked the bartender for a pair of ales and sat down at a table for two. 2 frothing tankards were brought to us, and I worked up the resolve to talk to my traveling partner. "So, what brings you to Wolfridge, old man?" I asked, taking a draught of ale immediately after the words left my mouth. "Like yourself, I am meeting someone here," he happily replied after wiping froth from his lips. "I'm afraid the nature of my meeting is secret as at present, but I will suffice to say that he who I am meeting is in for quite the surprise when I bestow my knowledge upon him. And yourself? What brings you to Wolfridge?" "My business here is quite similar," I said, wondering if this man could be the guide I was expecting to meet. I was told he was a strong and resourceful man, which did not entirely rule out my companion. However, I figured I was letting my imagination get ahead of me, and our similar business was entirely separate. I am supposed to meet a guide who will show me something. I was not told what, but I'm expecting something impressive after my troubles getting here. "Interesting," the old man said, sipping his ale. "2 men wandering in the snow, each expecting another, one seeking out a secret, the other prepared to reveal a secret." He closed his eyes and seemed to be pondering something deeply. I let him do so, glad to be done with our short conversation. I finished my ale without realizing I had been drinking so much. After a few minutes of silence in which I considered getting up and walking to a dark corner of the tavern, my companion opened his eyes and smiled. "How would you like to come with me, friend? I have a secret, and you desire to know a secret, and neither of us seems to know who to expect here. How would you like to see something your eyes have never beheld before?" I was hoping to be rid of the old man by now, but he seemed determined to keep me around. I had been here for a while now, expecting my contact to come my way, but no one had. In addition to that, my companion seemed rather excited to share his secret. Although I was not in the mood to talk any further, waiting around for my contact would mean talking to at least one more new person. At least I was getting used to this old man. After much thought, I replied to his offer. "Sure, why not?" I said. "It sounds more interesting than waiting around in this tavern." Without saying anything more, he leapt off the seat, dropping enough coins on the table for both of our drinks. I didn't speak up about it. We both donned our furs, and I followed him back out the door and into the snow. The storm had cleared a bit since we had arrived in Wolf Ridge. Snowflakes fell lazily and sporadically around us, and the gray clouds had been replaced by white ones. My companion wasted no time, and I was already walking down the street. I followed, wondering where he could be off to. Our boots crunched the snow underneath, and it was the loudest sound I heard. The town was dead quiet, just like the mountain it had taken root on. Everything was quiet up here. After so many years here in the snow, one would think I would be used to the silence by now. For some, the silence becomes the norm, but it can still chill me to the core more than the snow itself. Especially in towns like this, where hundreds of people went about their daily lives, but not a whisper made its gentle way into the empty streets. Maybe that was why I avoided these towns, the unnatural silence. Or maybe it was just because I hated people. There were 3 things in the world that I hated more than anything: other people, riddles, and surprises. Right now, the old man was annoying me on 2 accounts. He was a person with a surprise. I followed him until we reached the local guard outpost. The guard patrolled the mountains every once in a while and generally kept order in the towns. Other than a few drunks, there really wasn't much for them to take care of, but they were still garrisoned all throughout the mountainside. I could not imagine what sort of business the old man may have here. Sometimes my work forced me to ally myself with the guard, so perhaps this really was my contact. He was a riddle, it seemed. He had struck all 3 of my bad chords now. The old man reached into his furs and pulled out a medallion, which he showed to the guard standing outside the building. It was emblazoned with the insignia of the guard, a fact that surprised me. What was this old man doing with a free pass into any guard outpost? I wasn't sure if I was beginning to regret or to appreciate my acceptance of his offer, but I still did not enjoy the constant surprises. The guard led us both inside, and again Warmare greeted me. I began unbuttoning my coats. "Not so fast," the old man said. "You'll need those again shortly. I wouldn't bother taking them off." I redid the few buttons I had managed to undo and let myself sweat. I prayed for a very quick visit in this place. The old man kept walking, the guard behind us the entire way. Thought it odd that the guard was not leading. It seemed my companion knew exactly what he was doing. I had been in a few guard outposts before in my time. I was not a member of the guard, but sometimes my work landed me in their company. This outpost was fairly standard. A barracks with standard beds, a standard kitchen, and a standard solar-powered lights overhead. Everything standard, just like most of the members of the guard itself. The old man seemed to find what he was looking for as he stopped at a specific door. "Thank you," he bid the guard away and opened the wooden door. "Are you going to tell me what's going on here?" I asked. "How are you affiliated with the guard?" "All in due time," he chided. "Everything will make more sense once you see what I have to share with you." Beyond this wooden door was a metal door with a large lock in the center. The guard medallion fit perfectly into the locking mechanism, and a loud click sounded. The old man effortlessly moved the door aside and cold air washed over me, making my sweat practically freeze on my forehead. Before us was a long tunnel carved from ice. It curved slightly and I could not see the end. Ambient light danced around at odd angles, distorting my perception of its shape, but I found it surprisingly bright for a tunnel. "Follow me," the old man said. I did obediently, silently marveling at the ice tunnel. I had seen a few such formations, but never one quite as impressive as this one. There was no snow here, only smooth, slippery ice. We walked in the tunnel for several minutes, my curiosity definitely piqued now. I had far too many unanswered questions to turn back now. Soon I could hear the howling of the wind again, and the light became brighter. We were nearing the end of the tunnel, and I became more anxious than I would like to admit to see what lay there. We emerged around a bend, and I was very impressed indeed. The tunnel led out practically at the edge of the mountain itself. A massive valley was spread out far beneath us. Verdant green dotted the far-off landscape, and blue sky could be seen in the distance, beyond the storm clouds of the mountains. It was a beautiful sight to behold, but nothing nearly as earth-shattering as I had expected. "Is this it, old man?" I asked. "A nice view?" You made it out to be much more. But it is, I'm afraid. Look there. He pointed up and to the right, where some of the uninhabited area of the mountains could still be seen, and the snow still fell. For a moment all I saw was snow, but then my eyes caught what he wanted me to see. Not entirely close, but not nearly far enough away, was a giant translucent blue-green wall. It pulsated as if with a heartbeat, and seemed to be made of lightning pressed into a box, with the way it danced around erratically. It stretched as far as I could see to the left and right of me and toward the sky, until clouds and snow obscured it. "What is that?" I asked, not entirely sure if I wanted to know the answer. "The color," the old man said. "Where have you seen it before?" I thought for a moment, and could come up with nothing that made sense. Only one answer could possibly be correct, but even that seemed so wrong. "Old man, you can't be serious. I'm afraid to answer your question as I fear my answer may be correct." The man nodded. "Souls. The wall is made of souls. When you fill your batteries, you can see the green-blue clouds riddled with lightning that you have extracted from your body, and that appears, by all accounts, to be what you see in front of you." "How is that possible?" I asked, beginning to think this was all an illusion. There must be thousands of souls there. How could they all have accumulated like that? "Millions, not thousands," my guide corrected. "To be honest, we don't know. We're hoping to find some capable volunteers to go beyond the wall and investigate. We cannot know if this is some sort of bizarre natural phenomena that we don't understand, or if a powerful enemy lurks just beyond the horizon and has found a way to use souls as a weapon. That's why I brought you here to see this." "You want me to go beyond the wall?" I said. It was not a question. "Yes, indeed. And you suggest multiple volunteers, meaning you want me to work with others?" "Only one other, in fact, and you're looking at him," the old man smiled broadly. "You must be joking," I said in disbelief. "There is no way that you can make the trip." He began walking back down the ice tunnel, toward the barracks. "Well, I made it this far, didn't I?" I was offered a bed in the Wolf Ridge Guard barracks, but kindly turned it down. I'd spent 2 nights in those standard-issue beds in the past, which was all it took for me to opt for the local inn. I always got sidelong glares from the guards in return. After all, why was I so special? Their bunked close quarters, hard as rock beds weren't good enough for me. Again, I repeat, I hate people. 2 nights in the cramped chamber was too many. I know I don't need to go into detail on how uncomfortable the beds themselves were. One can easily imagine the lack of comfort afforded to the military. So I found myself reserving a room at the inn down the street, which resided on the floor above the tavern. It was a cozy place, but I had a room and a bed to myself, both of which were more comfortable than the barracks. My legs ached, sore from all the walking I had done to get to Wolf Ridge. I'd spent 5 days traveling across the mountains from Shardwall, even braving the cold in an ice cave, rather than trying to find the nearest town. Obviously, I had survived, like I had many times before, but it was never the most enjoyable experience. However, anything was better than the barracks. Their only redeeming quality was their warmth, something I did not entirely enjoy. So much time in the mountains had given me a particular affinity to the cold that many who stayed near their hearths never acquired. I slept well. In the morning, I stopped into the tavern downstairs for a breakfast of unspecified meat, before heading to the barracks to meet up with the old man and whoever else was there waiting for me. The guards escorted me inside, taking me to a plain room filled with a few chairs. The old man sat in one, and a younger man and a woman in military garb occupied 2 other chairs. There was one left for me. Fantastic. My advisory team was assembled, and soon the old man and I would be on our way. As I took my seat, the old man began speaking. "Now that we are all here, let us begin. I've shown all of you the wall of souls that myself and my companion must traverse through. All we know is that we have to get to the other side and find the source before it spreads further, if it is truly harmful. Right now, that is our mission. Unfortunately, it has come from the unexplored lands to the north, and we don't have much knowledge of what lies in those areas. Perhaps it is more of the same that we experience here, or perhaps it is a wild land full of deadly weather and beasts. We won't know until we get there. Now I have nothing more to say, except that we leave this afternoon. We will spend the morning preparing, although most of our supplies are already set aside for us. Gareth and Madril," he motioned to the armored pair in the other seats, "will assist us in gathering the proper supplies and will recommend paths to take and tactics for neutralizing this force if it is truly nefarious." Madril, the woman, stood up and addressed me. "What is your name, traveler?" Call me Wanderer, I said, using my common alias. Madrigal did not seem to like that I would not disclose my true name, but she did not press the point further. Out of the two of you, you are the younger and stronger. You will be the bearer of close-quarter weapons in case there are conventional enemies beyond the wall. Are you proficient in any? I can swing a sword, an axe, and a hammer equally well, and I can use a shield, I said. Excellent. You will face any adversaries with weapon in hand. You may take whatever weapon you please from the armory. Thank you. I have my own sword, though, I said. It was stored in my pack back at the inn I had stayed in. Gareth stood up and drew our attention to a large map on the wall. It was a map of the region, and most of it I recognized. I quickly identified the last town I had visited, Shardwall, and then the town of Wolfridge itself. The map north of the town was relatively blank. Drawings of road and terrain essentially disappeared a mile or two beyond the town. Some geography was present, but all roads ended abruptly, and the map did not go much beyond. Not much is known about the Northlands. Few have traveled beyond Wolfridge. We are truly in a borderland between civilization and the unknown. It seems to be generally inhospitable, even by our standards. We have to assume the worst in terms of weather, beasts, and terrain. There's a single path through the rocks. He indicated one of the dead-end roads on the map. It is a dangerous enough route over the border as it is. We can guide you through it, but after that, you are on your own. I was used to danger. Everything on the mountains was dangerous, but I was still unnerved by the thought of journeying into unknown territories. How could I not be? This was far beyond any of the mercenary work I had done in the past. In all of those jobs, there was a clear enemy, a clear destination, and I just had to swing a sword or scout for information. This was a whole different beast, and I was worried, but I wouldn't dare show it. These military types could smell fear, and they don't appreciate hesitation. We will be packing camping supplies and as much food and drink as possible, Madrigal said. 2 weeks of supplies ought to be sufficient. If the mission will take longer than 2 weeks to accomplish, then you need to return for reinforcements. It will take a lot of effort and time, but we can get a large caravan of supplies and troops out into the unknown region if necessary. The old man spoke up. Perhaps it is time to speak of the Wall of Souls itself. Yes, Gareth said with slight hesitation. I'm afraid I don't know much about soul energy. We use soul-powered devices in the guard, but that's about it. Our people here in Wolfridge can only speculate on what this is. Since souls are the life energy of living beings, we feared the Wall of Souls could be a very powerful being's life force, or the souls of millions of dead men. Either proposal is equally concerning. We do know that much power concentrated is a threat to our city and even the entire mountain region. But since we have never heard of souls being used for anything nefarious, just power in our tools, we have no idea what this wall is capable of. So our task, the old man said, is to find out how to neutralize the threat, and if possible, figure out who or what is behind this bizarre phenomenon. I remained silent. I had nothing to add to the conversation. I was ready to leave. The longer we delayed, the more time I had to convince myself that this adventure was beyond crazy, and I should just take my mercenary work elsewhere.